As mentioned in my previous video, I told everyone about wanting to discuss dragon snails. So, guess what today is? For context, as I have been going through the many stories of the SCP Foundation, I was reminded of my absolute favorite SCP out of all of them. So much so that I do actually own a plush of one, which I will go into more detail later. The simplistic story with such detail into how they exist, like you're reading a how-to when taking care of a pet, it's really fun. So today I like to discuss the aspects of this story, giving a quick summary, my opinions, the artistic approach of these little guys, as well as my own little doodles, and discussing an amazing shop that I recommend you check out. So let's talk about SCP-111, the Dragon Snails, created by Adam Henderson. SCP-111, better known as the dragon snails, are an artificial species of invertebrate, any creature that lacks a backbone or bony skeleton, vaguely resembling snails. Adults are around 20 centimeters long, 12 centimeters wide, and 15 centimeters tall. However, each species has a slight variation in size. They possess a warm-blooded metabolism, small quote-unquote horns that actually consist of cartilage-rich tentacles, an inherent increased intelligence, in which any personnel are requested to read a redacted test log for any examples, and complex eyes and vertebrae-type jaws. They also have the ability to lay eggs that possess hardened shells. Most strange is dragon snails possess a small hollow sac below the jaws containing methane from digestive byproducts. Along the inside of the trachea, a series of unknown factors serve as a lighter which ignites the stored methane. However, this isn't used deliberately for destruction, but rather as a warning, somewhat like how pufferfish puff up against predators. This is likely due to the size of the sacs, limiting dragon snail specimens in the amount of fire they produce and requiring time and starch-rich food to refuel. Here, I believe it's important to discuss captivity measures, as well as their diet. In Site 19, in a redacted wing, all dragon snails are housed in, and I quote, a 5 meter by 5 meter by 5 meter plexiglass enclosure containing a temperature forest habitat transplanted from its natural surroundings, end quote. The temperature of this habitat is to be maintained at 30 degrees Celsius, around 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Every week, staff is to feed 3 kilograms of iceberg lettuce into containment chambers, water supplied by an automatic misting system that also regulates humidity levels at 50% as well. This measure also helps to give water to dragon snails, but also prevents any outbreaks of fires. Any breeding that occurs between the dragon snails that result in eggs is to be collected and transported to the biological studies wing to be frozen. Something I'd like to mention in this is actually their diet, as well as their ability to use this food to breathe fire in the previous section. It's noted that a starch-rich diet is needed to help replenish the methane that allows them to breathe fire, as well as time. This, however, seems to counteract with their diet. With the little research I've done, as well as the bunnies and guinea pigs I've owned for extra context, iceberg lettuce is actually very low in starch and are classified as non-starchy. This is likely purposeful in order to prevent any fires within the enclosure due to any warnings that the other snails give. I actually quite enjoy this little detail as it really puts into perspective all the research that is done between not only this story, but all of the others under the SCP umbrella. Going back to their descriptions, dragon snail behavior is inconsistent with snail species, including their ability to whistle and produce hooting vocalizations that is audible to humans. There is also the added detail of dragon snails' high intelligence presented in tests that are not explained, as well as parents caring for their young. With other little research I did, a normal snail will lay their eggs and kind of just dip. Some species having some sort of protective nature of the eggs, but not showing any form of parental care. Lizards are also known to behave in a similar manner as well. Their hatchlings have also been noted to imprint on not only their parents, but other members of their species, and even some of these researchers. So, with that in mind, I'm gonna go attempt to become a researcher. I will be right back. Give me like 10 minutes. Alright, apparently, stuffed animals don't make good researchers. But, I tried. This document, along with 12 dragon snail eggs, were mailed to a Foundation front organization. Mobile Task Force Alpha 4 was sent to locate the sender, however, they were unable to find anything. A quick note about the Mobile Task Force is they are a unit of personnel who are mobilized to deal with their specific threats. For example, Alpha 4, which is also known as the Pony Express, are personnel who act as undercover employees who specialize in tracking, interception, and the securing of anomalous objects through postal delivery services worldwide. I think now I should actually tell you that I need to mix between two different documents of the SCP Foundation, as this actually goes into giving more detail into the origins of the dragon snails. So, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Wondertainment. Dr. Wondertainment is a manufacturer who is well known to the Foundation for making anomalous, magical children's toys. Whether it be a company, an individual, or someone who owns said company, Wondertainment is most noted for making children's toys that can be unsafe or beyond anyone's imagination. No matter their intentions or their grasp on the world around them, they are tied closely to children and childlike behavior. This is important as dragon snails, based on document 111-A, were created by Dr. Wondertainment. The document contains care and hatching instructions, what to feed them, and how much water to give them. There is also a section dedicated to the 6 unique types of dragon snails, and it actually encourages breeding for unique variations. So, I'd like to go through these each one by one, as well as discussing the artistic side of their creation. Slimy bellies are noted to be oozy, possess a fire engine red color, have black horns and belly, a tan shell, and lay robin egg blue eggs. Admittedly, there isn't much to go on besides their colors and basic markings, and that's pretty similar for most of these. However, despite only having one piece of official art, at least from what I could find, one of the 2 dragon snails is noted in the caption as being a slime belly, the other one being an ooze drake. I found a lot of fan art differentiating from the official image, especially between these 2 species. However, this could be due to how they're described compared to the photo, something I'd like to note in the next section. Slimy bellies are said to have little black horns, and with many artists I've seen, they give them short little nubs on their heads, usually giving them 1 or 2, or having low curled down horns. The look of the shell is also seemingly changed, many giving them traditionally seen snail shells. Personally, I went with the 2 little nubs as a kind of like a mix between that and a dragon-like feature, as well as a traditional circular snail shell. Even with having the canon material, I really like how each artist seems to have their own interpretation of the actual design, and it allows for a lot of unique ideas and looks. Also, as a side note, I hate Google search results because if you don't type the name right, you get weird YouTube Kids videos that shouldn't be on YouTube Kids, but whatever. I freaking hated that. Ooze drakes are said to be inquisitive creatures. They possess a banana-colored skin, curled horns, a striped shell, and lay pale tan eggs that are similar to chicken's eggs. As stated before, the artwork portrays both types as looking almost identical, except for their color, but I've seen many artists give their own interpretation that I really enjoy seeing. Many are drawn with curved downward horns, sort of like a ram's, but each varying in size. Their shells seem to be similar to slime bellies in a lot of these, but seem more pronounced, which I also think looks rather adorable. I kept most of these details shared among artists, but I added a bit of coloring to the striped shell, which is something I saw a couple people do, but I really wanted to add to mine, as well as some added markings. Gooey verns are described as having dark blue-gray skin, flattened shells, and a bumpy horned head, kind of giving them a more sea creature look. Their eggs are also noted as being a glassy green color, which, very pretty. Funnily enough, I do own this guy as a plush toy, and I love this little dude. There isn't any distinct color that's mentioned for its shell, just the general shape, but I kept the shell a tan color like the one I own, but I have seen dark gray and even dark purple artwork that I wanted to note because the art is so beautiful. There really is no end to the different ways you can go for each of these creatures. Blobworms possess green and gold stripes, a pointy shell, a singular horn, fuzzy tails, and lay tan eggs that have a nice silver tint. A lot of artwork I've seen of blobworms seem to give this dragon a unicorn-like horn, and a couple a bit more subtle. I personally love the unicorn look, which is why mine has a unicorn horn. I also love the little detail of a fuzzy tail, which I wanted to make a bit more prominent in my drawings. If I could have one, it would probably be this little guy. 2 notes here, blobworms consistently popped up as bloodworms, which, much better than the last, accidental lookup. And when looking up types of dragons that I was going to put as a section, It became 30 times harder because one is called a Kirin, who is also a Pokemon character. For Arceus' sake, I cannot catch a break. Glow drakes seemingly look a lot like a blue-black slime belly, until, as their name suggests, they light up. They are known to glow in the dark, and lay golden-colored eggs with a red dot. Something I forgot to put in my drawing, but hey, who's counting? There is no mention on if the eggs glow, which would actually be kind of fun to note, but not important. Honestly, this is probably one of the shorter of the two, as there isn't much to add, as they are almost like a recolor despite the glow feature. I did try to add a slight change in certain colors for when they glow, so that it lets them stand out a bit more. Gunk wyverns are chubby, possess a green skin, and have dome-shaped shells. Their eggs are actually known to be transparent, so you're able to see the baby dragon snail inside. I love the added detail of the chubby description and the change in the common shell shape and size. A lot of art I saw of them worked the chubby feature and the dome shell really well, and a couple making the face more like a tortoise, which I think works really well. Mine looks more like a frog. But you know what? I love them all the same. The subtle changes put into the descriptions of these dragons is rather creative, and I believe the aspect of dragon snail breeding is only subtly brought up, but it makes for some rather interesting implications. Can they crossbreed? What would they look like? Could horns be added, taken away, combined? What about skin color, shell types, the eggs they lay? There's so many different implications. Another detail I love is the use of different types of dragons within the names of the variants, which I love quite a bit as well, even if Google was not my friend for that part. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I actually do own a plush of the Gooeyvern, and he does have quite the story. Gooby, which is his name by the way, was purchased back in 2022 on February 17th. If you remember what was going on around this time, 7 days after this, the expansion of war in the Ukraine due to a full-scale invasion took place, endangering many in Ukraine and taking many lives, soldiers and civilians alike. I'm not the best when it comes to watching the news, so shortly after things began to really escalate, I learned of what happened and checked where I ordered my dragon snail. A small Ukrainian shop on Etsy who specialized in plush toys, a lot of them being SCPs. Honestly, I really had no hope in seeing Gooby, but I was okay with that. This poor woman and her family was surely going through a lot, and no matter what, I would leave a kind review, plush or not. Her safety of her and her family was more important to me. However, near the beginning of March, a package from the Ukraine was given to me from the mail. He had arrived safe and sound, now in his new home. I gave her a simple yet kind review, and got a sudden message back in April. She kindly thanked me for the review, and apologized for the long delivery, which she really didn't need to, as it was extremely understandable. She actually mentioned that my plush had a special history. Gooby had actually survived the first days of the war in Kyiv. She then sent me a 20% off coupon for my next purchase, which I didn't end up using, admittedly, but the gesture was so greatly appreciated. I will actually put her shop in the description for people to check out if they wish. This isn't like a sponsored thing, and I wasn't asked to do this, but I really wanted to do this to show my gratitude to a sweet woman who has obviously been through a lot because of things going on in her country. Now, many takes later, and having cried from writing the last section, I believe I should end this here. I totally recommend you looking into this story, as well as look at all the amazing fan art from the community and all of the other purchase works you can find on things like Etsy. Compare and contrast the little details you see, and hey, any artist, show off your interpretations of each one. But now I'm crazy about dragons, and I need a nap. Alright, anyways, I'll see you in the future for a new project. Grimdark Pony Stories or Grimdark Pony Stories. Yeah, you have no choice. Bye-bye!